congratulations. We are officially Amazon Teamsters.
Woo! Teamsters! Teamsters!
The Golden Belt Buckle Podcast. Today we're going to talk about the story about the Amazon truckers who have voted to unionize, the first of its kind, down in Shepherdsville, Kentucky at the SDF 9 facility. We're going to go through this story really quick here. This is the press release from the Teamsters Union. So we're going to ask the question, we're going to talk about unions in general really quickly. Then we're going to ask, is it a good idea? Can they afford it? That's the roadmap, right? So I remember years ago I took this industrial leadership course at St. Clair College, and shout out to the guy that was teaching it, Nick Agila from Windsor. He worked for one of the big three, and he was telling us that way back in the day when he started up at one of the big three, that's all he ever wanted to do, right? And now he worked his way up into management, so now he's like one of the high managers in one of these factories. I don't know, I can't remember what his job title is, but he was able to move his way through the ranks. And he was saying that now, every year, they're always told to cut 10%, cut 10%, cut 10%. So with that 10%, they're finding ways to lean out the business, right? Which means that when someone quits or they get fired, or they just don't replace them, right? Or they get rid of them, they lay them off, right? So that these white collar jobs that people might have wanted to advance to from the line, those don't exist anymore, a lot of them. So you have no choice, but if you're gonna work at one of these factories, he said, it's just a good job now. You're working a job. You're not really going to have much of a chance to advance, probably, right? So that's the reality. Like, because everything is so competitive, cost competitive, there's not a lot of places that you can actually advance to. So you're stuck at the bottom pay tier. And why is this significant for unions? Because if you're sitting here at the bottom, you've got no chance of going up. You know, you got a decent job, but this is all you can do, because it's not just one industry. It's everywhere. Everybody's leaning out by necessity. Well, what do? You're not going to go any higher. Your pay grade's not going to go any higher. So the whole point of a union is that instead of acting as an individual, all the workers act as one, right? You know, think about it. From the first day you go into your interview, the negotiation is all one-sided, because you need the job more than they need you. They can get a bunch of other people to do what they're hiring you to do. So you will take what they give you. There is no negotiation. You need a job, take it. So the whole point of a union, you can act as the worker body can act as one instead of a bunch of individuals, right? And by doing that, that gives you better negotiating power. Think of it this way. If you're a truck driver, let's say you're a truck driver, because that's what this is, the Golden Belt Buckle Podcast. If you're the only guy that has his trucking license, hypothetically, the company would pay you millions of dollars to move their freight, or just not be in business, right? They would have to pay, whatever it is they can pay, they would have to pay you substantially much more than what they pay you now, because you're the only one that can do it, right? You would become much more valuable, but because there's millions of truck drivers, you are devalued, right? And I've gone into videos this is why you don't want to help your company recruit, really. If you're going to be talk about guerrilla tactics, you don't want to help them, because every time there's more drivers, you devalue yourself. So by everybody acting as one, it gives you the power to negotiate. That makes sense. So here we have, in this situation, the Amazon CDL drivers have voted to unionize. They're saying that they're tired of being treated like they're disposable. They're tired of unilateral policy changes which wreck their lives, and they want better pay, right? And I can understand all those things as one who's been in the trucking industry for 25 years, because I've had it where I've worked for companies where, you work 9 or 10 hours a day. You've got your schedule, your life, everything's working out great for you. And then all of a sudden, the company pivoting, right, just trying to be nimble, reacting to market conditions, they add 3 or 4 hours extra onto your day. And it's not just once. For me, this happened, it was like at least 3 days a week. So they pretty much took my life away. My choice was to either stay or quit, right? And in reality, you can't just go around quitting jobs all the time, right? So that's probably what these guys here are facing, and they just got sick and tired of it, right? So industry standard pay, I don't know what that's all about. Are they fighting for overtime? I don't know. I know that there are some companies like ours, we get overtime if we work we get time and a half for certain hours of the day if we work, right? Other places, they give you a bit of a shift premium if you work midnights or afternoons. Other places, or the same places, will give you premiums if you work the weekend. So I don't know if that's what they're wanting. I don't work there. I don't know exactly what they want. But I do understand it from their perspective, that the pay is low. The pay is low. It's not covering the cost of living increase, and these guys are all at the bottom. So they want better pay, better conditions. Not sure what that's all about, and an end to Amazon's pattern of instituting arbitrary new policies. So the question that we're going to ask about this whole thing, so is unionizing a good idea? Is it a good idea, and can they afford it? So is it a good idea? Hypothetically, I'd say it's a great idea. Right? Just there's a couple things to consider here. With a caveat, it's a great idea. Amazon's business model is it's not like a factory that makes widgets. Amazon has all their fulfillment centers strategically placed in areas where they have to be. They have to be there because that's their promise of quick delivery is from these places is that they can get their fulfillment centers close enough to you where they can give you next day delivery, right? That's their whole business model. So they can't just up and leave if everybody unionizes. So in that sense, I think it's a great idea they unionize. Unlike a widget factory making widgets in Arkansas, they unionize and the factory was like, I just checked it out. I can get all the same suppliers and everything to get for my widgets up in Detroit. So we're going to move the factory in Detroit. We'll just produce the widgets in Detroit. We don't have to be in Arkansas. Well, that's the big difference between Amazon and a widget factory. Amazon has to be there, right? So in that sense, it's great. Now for the CDL drivers, the only caveat I would put on this is that they might not have to use you, right? If you look at like I don't work there, but I know from driving down the road, and I know from looking at some of the photographs I was looking at in this, there's a lot of third-party carriers, right? So the big wigs, now that these truckers have unionized, they're going to look at the numbers, they're going to find out what's cheaper. Is it better just to try and phase you out? I don't know how they do that. I don't know if they can do that, but that's what they would likely try to do, right? And so that's what I would say. Now they're unionized, they want more. They're going to say, okay, is it easier for us to? We need to make those unilateral decisions because we need to be nimble. We need to be able to pivot on a dime. So is it easier just to get third-party carriers instead of having company drivers? We want to be cheaper. We don't want to pay that much money. So is it cheaper just to get an outside carrier, right? They're going to ask those questions. I know they are. It's emotional, but that's what they're going to say. But I would say just because you unionize, that doesn't mean they're going to get rid of you. Look at the big three. All right? I did auto parts, and the big three, they have a combination of third-party carriers, and they have their own drivers, and they're unionized. So just because you unionize doesn't mean your company's going to get rid of you. There's a reason they use their own drivers, right? And it's not always about the pay. So the question, yes, I think it's a good idea in principle. So the question is, can they afford it? So I put a little bit of work into this. So here's the numbers, okay? So people are saying that they can't afford it, giving some of these some numbers that just don't have anything to do with what's going on here. So I think I'm pretty close to reality with this. So can Amazon afford raises? Amazon's financial reality. Amazon's North American operating income in 2024 was about $25 billion. So that's North America we're talking about. Their global operating income was about $68.6 billion. Net income sits around $30 to $40 billion a year. Free cash flow sits around $36 billion annually. The frontline worker math, about 825,000 American workers. If Amazon raised wages for all 825,000 U.S. frontline workers, not just these couple truckers, but all 825,000 U.S. frontline workers, just $1, that would be $1.7 billion a year. $3 an hour raise would be about $5.1 billion a year. So the impact, a $5 billion raise package still leaves tens of billions in profits, cash flow, and margin. So could they afford it? They could afford it, right? they could absolutely afford that. So the CDL driver math. So let's just, again, we're not talking about the less than 50 drivers probably at this facility. We're going to talk about 5,000 to 10,000 just drivers, right? Just CDL drivers. If all Amazon CDL drivers got substantial raises, we're just assuming there's 10,000 of them. So 10,000 CDL drivers total. Let's say they all got $15,000 annual raises per drivers. The total cost would be $150 million per year. So the impact on the net operating income would be 0.22%. So it like nothing, it scratches the surface. Now, the current reality, only around 50 drivers, let's say, SDF 9 are unionized. If each received a $15,000 a year raise, the cost would be $750,000 per year. The impact on Amazon's net operating income would be 0.001%. So the key point to take away is that Amazon could raise pay for every single CDL driver. every single frontline warehouse worker, every logistics employee, and they would still have tens of billions of dollars in profits. Okay, so the reason why they're fighting this, it's not because they can't afford it. It's because they, in everything in life, right? If you own a house, right, you're not out to pay top dollar to contractors who come in and work on your house. You're out to keep as much money in your pocket and then pay as little as you can for those contractors, right? So that you can have more money. That's the way it works, right? So they don't want to pay these guys more money because they don't want the precedent of every other truck driver in their facility unionizing and then asking for more money, right? Because it's not a charity, right? That's what they'll say. It's not a charity, right? It's just like your house. A business is kind of like your house, right? You're not out to pay as much as you possibly can. You're out to pay all your contractors, like car mechanics, right? If you got a car, your house, electricians, plumbers, you're going to pay them as little as you can. You're going to shop around to get the one that can do the most for the least, right? So that's what this is all about. So unions, I think, are not a bad thing. They're not always a bad thing. Is this a good idea? Yes, with some caveats. Can they afford it? Absolutely. Will they fight this? Yes. So anyways, that's what I got. Till next time, cheers. Keep the rubber side down.